booting up?
Still going.
Oh, okay.
Live now.
Oh, now it's live. And Bruce, would you mind shutting the doors when we get rolling? So welcome to y'all. Glad you're here. We're going to do some review today, obviously. I don't know, those of you at home can't see this, but maybe at the time we do a clip will pan out. But we're going to use some clips from the Wine and Tapas speaker series with Lauren that we had a couple weeks ago. As it was close to the equinox, we thought it was a perfect time to kind of bring in somebody who can focus us in on kind of eco-spirituality and what that might look like. So today I wanted to start with the poem that she started with and kind of get us recentered on that theme. And then for those of you who were in attendance, if you've got some insights into that you want to share with the whole, what were your impressions of this approach to spirituality that I really think is, obviously it's relevant for our time that we reconnect our life patterns with the ecosphere in a way that kind of honors that relationship more deeply. And we've gotten to where we've been more of a transactional relationship with nature, it feels like to me, rather than this sort of deep synergistic relationship that Lauren was talking about. So one of the themes that I saw that she at least awakened in me was this shift from thinking about the relationship with the biosphere as being something that is transactional to thinking about it as a love affair, right? That this is truly, the Earth Mother that I love and I give love to, but the Earth Mother loves you back, right? There's this reciprocal nature to it. And to participate in that reciprocal nature changes the dynamism of the way in which you think about the relationship. And for Lauren, I think, invites you into probably a deeper sense of spirituality that's grounded in the soil beneath your feet. So we'll unpack that a little bit today, and then get some of your comments on it as well. So let's start with a poem. This is a poem by David Wagoner called Lost. And I'm going to start with this poem and end with this poem. And I love it because the poem Lost, it implies that we're the ones who are lost, right? Or we feel lost sometimes in the universe. But the poem talks about how nothing really is lost. But so often we feel that way. Why do we feel that way in this universe that cradles us into life every moment? It's just a strange dynamism. And I think the poem also suggests some of the themes that Lauren touched in her lecture, some of which you'll see in the video today. So maybe take a little deep breath, ground your personhood in whatever way you feel helps you be grounded this morning. And then let this piece of poetry wash over you a bit. I'll ring the bell, and then we'll open it up to some comments. Lost. Stand still. The trees ahead and the bushes beside you, they are not lost. Wherever you are is called here, and you must treat it as a powerful stranger. You must ask permission to know it and be known. The forest, it breathes, it listens, it answers. I have made this place around you. If you leave it, you may come back again, saying, here. No two trees are the same to raven. No two branches are the same to wren. If what a tree or a bush does is lost on you, well, then you are surely lost. So stand still. The forest knows where you are. You must let it find you. Stand still. The forest knows where you are. You must let it find you. All right. For those of you who are with us at that event, before I launch into some of my content, anybody have just some general reflections that, you might not remember the specificity of the conversation we had, but I don't want to launch into my content before I honor that which you kind of, absorbed from the experience that night. It was, I thought, one of our more magical Wine and Tapas speaker series. She really, I thought, brought her, she doesn't just bring content, she has a deep relationship with the planet that just, like an aura around her that I love. So that was really palpable that night, I thought. Any just general thoughts, Tina? You want to pass the mic, Alan, to Tina?
Lauren had so many insights, and I remember every moment it seemed there was something she was saying, and I felt like I was just puddling. Like I couldn't even take it all in. There was so much beauty and poetry and connection and everything she said, and I there was just so much, and I just felt like this was happening. I couldn't quite grasp all of it,
right,
because she's so knowledgeable and poetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think that's a nice description. It wasn't just a bunch of ideas. It was more of an experience, because she did weave in not only poetry, literally, but sort of a poetic perspective in how you manage this love affair with the planet. And I do think that really shined through. Who else had a thought? John, you got a shot?
So, as Tina said, she was presenting an experience, and it paralleled my own experience. So, I just kept going, right. So over the last 20 years, I have significantly increased my balancing of the two parts of me. The material part and the spiritual part.
Yeah.
And what that was her story. How do we go about doing this? And so I've reached a point now where throughout the day, I experience the love story that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Because love to me, I substitute God. It's the God story. So as I'm going through the day, often the material that is affecting my senses allows me to see the universal energy that is also always present. If you said it or she said it, if we can allow it.
Yeah.
The forest knows.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's so true. As I go through the day, now I'm often distracted.
Yeah.
I'm not in touch with the forest, but often I can say often I am, and that's why I go around with a smile on my face.
Yeah.
Because it's always close. It's close by, and I know I can always go there.
Yeah, that is awesome. Yeah, the forest knows you are here kind of vibe. She definitely had that. Lori, did you have a comment or not? I thought I saw you wiggling around there.
Yeah,
So.
how could you tell?
Well, so before you go though, I wanted to pick up on what John said, because they had one of the things that she referenced in her talk, and we might visit this in her video. She calls it poto practice. You remember that term, poto practice? And I don't quite know how the letters line up, but it's protracted and thoughtful observation. That the way that you feel this relationship more deeply is protracted, entering into protracted, so extended, thoughtful observation. So being present in forest allows forest to speak to you, invite you into its forest self. If you're not doing that, you will be oftentimes preoccupied with the sort of the banter of culture, the sound that constantly consumes us. So how do you settle down, like John's describing, and listen to another story, a more ancient story, a story that's been around a lot longer, obviously, than the one we've constructed and wrapped ourselves in. So she is definitely an advocate for what John was talking about. Lori?
That's a perfect segue because
Oh.
I didn't raise my hand because I'm like, I'm not sure how to say this, but I feel like she gave a good example of living fully and without apology into what is meaningful for her. And like in terms of speaking of knowledge, but then leading us in moments of calm and moments of reflection and connection. And I just really appreciate her living fully into her foundness, if you want to use that poem you
Nice,
used.
yeah.
And I know she's not, I'm sure she has moments of her day where she's not connected, and but it made me appreciate that when we are able to do that, we inspire each other, her. I like that about her.
Yeah.
It's not fully formed, but that's kind of.
No. I think that's awesome. Yeah. Well, and I think there's a certain the other thing I liked about her presentation and her style was that she doesn't come off as sort of the expert in this field that she's going to tell you how to do this. She's basically saying you have agency to enter into this relationship. It's not like she's got to tell you how to do it. It's there for you, but you do have to give yourself to it. I think that's the beautiful thing. We don't always give ourselves to it. She warned early on in some of her earlier comments was about how the dominant system is so loud that you can't hear this quieter story that runs in the fabric of the universe, right? There's just so much noise that we've created as a culture that you can barely hear the ancient story that's floating around all the time, that's in the trees, that's in the little, she gave me a plant, she called that plant, I'm giving you a teacher. I'm like, what? I thought it was just a little, let that be your teacher. So there's the agency for the relationship is not dependent on an expert telling you how to do it, but just by a softening and an opening to it. And I was reminded, I have a couple friends who are losing their hearing. I'm losing my hearing too. So I guess welcome to the club. But I noticed that when they get into a room that's so loud, they can't hear anything at all, right? And they long for a single narrative with a single person that they could track on so that they can kind of find themselves in that experience, right? Whether it be a party or whatever it happens to be. My dad's one of those people, right? He'll seek out one person so he can watch their lips and pay, so he can hear story again, because in a crowd, there's tons of noise, but he's lost. Right? And I think that's what Lauren was hinting at a little bit. How do you get underneath the rattle of the dominant culture and find another story? Doesn't mean you can't participate in the dominant cultural story, but you should also be able to be informed by or shaped by this other story. I remember, Cynthia, you were talking about a couple of weeks ago trying to want to find more balance, right? So how do I experience more of that time by the seashore story, right? So like what John was talking about, you got to give yourself that time to hear. We oftentimes fail at that, I think. Any other comments? Yes, Candy?
I just want to comment on the speaker. As someone who's very susceptible, I can't talk this morning, to hypnosis, she has a very hypnotic voice.
Oh, she has a hypnotic voice.
And I went up to her later and I said, are you trained in hypnosis? Because I had to be really careful to stay awake.
Really?
Because of her voice. And
Yeah.
I really felt like she was tapping into multiple dimensions and multiple parts of all of us as she was speaking.
Interesting.
And I just felt it was just a deeper message because of her natural hypnotic voice.
Well, as she spoke, you were picking up on that energy. Where do you think that energy was inviting you into, that you were like, well, I want to stay present for this lecture, but I also feel attracted to this, drifting into this energy?
Yeah.
Fall asleep?
Yeah, I fall asleep under hypnosis.
So you wanted to get into the dream a bit.
Yes, I did want to get into the dream.
Yeah.
Because I'm more drawn to, spirit and the ethereal and not the earth. And I'm like, wow, this is cool. I need to think more about the earth and the planet. And that was a message I need to stay awake for.
Yeah.
Did she say she was a hypnotist?
No, she said she just had theater training, but it was very much to me like a professional hypnotist.
Well, that's fascinating because when we're going to play her today, and if you all drift off,
Or if I fell asleep, you know.
or if you fall asleep all of a sudden, I'll know, God, she really is.
You felt safe.
Yeah, yeah.
You wouldn't have relaxed to that deep space unless
Without
you
feeling
felt
safe.
safe in the environment she created.
Yeah. Well, and she definitely was creating, I think that's a great point, Carla, because she was not, and this, I just think this, you just stumbled into something about this, that it's not about some objective content. She was creating an awareness of space collectively through the language we use, maybe her tone, maybe her style, her pacing. It all had that. And maybe the only reason you didn't fall asleep is I was on the other side because I rarely put anybody into a hypnotic state. They're usually like, what? So I was a counterbalance. I kept you awake, you know. So, any other comments for those of you who have participated or maybe started just some feedback on comments you're hearing?
Bruce, would this be an example of theater uber alles?
I certainly enjoyed it.
What's uber alles? Is that what?
Over everything.
Oh, theater over everything. Yeah.
I certainly enjoyed it and enjoyed her message. I guess theater-wise, I'm used to a very large production, of course. But
Well, she did invite us into a very theatrical moment in that. Remember, she asked all of us, and this is something that you can think about for yourself. She said, try to pick a place, a space outdoors that you connect with deeply. And for Lori and I, it was we go on a hike around the Lafayette Reservoir, that upper rim trail, and there's a spot where you climb this one spot where the hills just roll in a particular way that just feels so inviting to me. So that was my space, right? And so she said, put yourself there. I don't know if you remembered that. And we all kind of spent time in that spot. Hopefully you can remember what your spot was. And then we asked that space, like you would ask Wisdom Tree or Teacher Bush, we asked that space, what do you want me to receive? You know, as I stand here, what is it that you want me to receive? And then the next question she guided us into is, well, what do you want me to kind of let go of here in this space? And then finally was, what do you want me to do? And those three things sort of opened up for her. It's like you're drawing your relationship and even your ethical response in the world from a relationship with the actual natural world. And then once you've done that experience, then you with gratitude, you thank rolling hills or oak tree or bird song or plant or flower. You thank them for the relationship you've had and the wisdom that they've given you. It's really, I think, quite beautiful. Different kind of pacing of life than we're typically used to, to be honest with you. Who else? So thanks for that. Yeah, Sandra?
So I listened to it on YouTube.
Oh, good, thank you.
To come, and I think I just kept thinking about kingdom and kingdom.
Yeah, talk about that a
And
little
it
bit.
just goes around in my head again and again.
Yeah.
And I haven't quite, resolved it. I may never, but I thought that was just such a beautiful way of describing the container that we live in, which is more like a kingdom with the up and the down and the rules and all of what comes with kingdoms versus a kingdom.
Yeah.
And I hadn't heard that, so. And I thought that tied in beautifully to her messaging around our relationship with nature being a love affair.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have much more than that, but
No, I think
I'm
it's,
still processing
Yeah.
all of what I heard.
yeah, she did a great job, I think, kind of framing up. And so many religious systems, and this is one of the questions I asked her about too, so many religious systems are birthed out of a kingdom gone nuts, right? So that now the wealth and income inequality in that kingdom is out of whack. There's so many people suffering within this kind of kingdom system that there's potential to need to refine oneself in society. And so so many times religious systems are a criticism of a particular kingdom. For Jesus, it was Roman Empire and Roman rule. For the Hebrew people, it was Egypt and the way in which that whole system worked. You find that all the time. But can we move beyond a notion that spirituality is grounded in addressing a cultural context? And can you expand it so you find yourself kin to the cosmos? Am I in a cosmic kinship? And I'll tell you just a brief story. Lori wasn't there, but I got to be in that line of full eclipse. What do you call that stupid line? The line that you saw it on the news. Huh? Totality. The path of totality. Sounds super awesome, right? I'm like, yes, I am sitting in the path of totality. So I'm in Burlington, Vermont, in the path of totality. We're going to watch the total 100% eclipse of the sun. So I'm sitting in this space. Hopefully, why am I telling you this story? What was I just talking about? Huh? Oh, the kin. So people are showing up from everywhere to be in this moment, right? And Burlington's not that big anyway, so it's absolutely jam-packed with people. So I had the 3 grandkids. My job was to get them to the cider shop. They set up in the loading dock, this place to sit outside with everybody. And so I plopped down in a chair, and we're all waiting. We got our glasses, and we're waiting for the sun, and people are showing up from everywhere, right? A woman sitting next to me, who I kind of know, is talking to me about kind of all the problems she's facing in her life. And so she's kind of a chatterbox, which is awesome. I kind of know her, and I can tell she's had a rough year, right? And so I said, so what are you expecting, from this moment? She goes, well, I'm wondering if it's going to invite me into kind of a sense of awe. Right? She was longing in the just insanity of her year. Could she have a moment of awe linked to this cosmic moment? And we talked about that for a while, and I said, well, I'm not sure we're going to get to that, but I bet it's going to be impressive, right? So I don't know what invites you into a moment of awe. I don't even know, because you don't see it coming. It just happens, right? So we were talking for a while about that and getting ready for this moment. And then the grandkids were causing a commotion, as they usually do, and they left to go run off, and one seat was open next to me, and my daughter, who runs the place, invited this guy who'd come all the way from New Hampshire and was kind of wandering around a little bit aimlessly. You could tell he was by himself, and he plops down in the chair next to me, and he too wanted to talk. It invited a lot of chattiness, the waiting for the solar eclipse, right? People are longing for some moment that's going to recenter them. And so he told me his life story as I'm sitting in this chair as the sun is slowly disappearing. And I don't know if have you seen the full eclipse of the sun ever? So you have, Bruce? It's pretty bright. It's not that spectacular until the last second when the moon blocks it fully, and then you get this incredible ring, and you can take off your glasses, the light changes, it gets dark, gets cold, birds freak out, the whole 9 yards. The world changes. And I will tell you that there was this moment that was super brief where everybody kind of just was in this pause, as if they realized again, or maybe for the first time in a long time, that you're part of a huge cosmic happening. Right? That the moon and the sun are dancing around us all the time, and here they are together for a moment, and it changes everything about the day. And literally, you could just feel the it was almost like a relief that we belong to something that big. That's home to us. And all these problems that we deal with, they felt like they've got put in their place for a moment. And I think it was what you were saying, Sandra. They felt part of the kingdom, the cosmic kingdom, for, what was it, like a minute maybe? And then the moon starts shifting and the sun, just explodes on the scene again. And you're like, wow. Magical. I didn't have an awestruck moment, but it was pretty magical. Yeah, Carla. Microphone. We love what you have to say, Carla, so we want to, yeah.
Energetically, I really felt that the eclipse did shift something very much for everyone,
Talk about
whether
that.
you were looking for it or not.
Yeah.
I'd sort of spaced out on it and just simply went for a walk in open space, which was exceptionally beautiful.
Yeah.
And as I'm walking along, I meet some other people who happen to have a whole bunch of extra glasses with them. They were just sharing with everyone on the trail. So I took a look, and voila, there was a partial eclipse that I could see. And so then I thanked them. It was an exhilarating moment that, you know, I had disconnected with, but got to reconnect with. And then I continued on the path, and I saw another stranger walking with his dog, and I said, "Hey, I got something to show you," and pulled out the glasses and was able to extend the magic of the moment with another human being in the same spirit of the gift that it was given to me. And it just, there was something that I think we sensed or shifted just by the nature of what the phenomena that was happening,
Yeah.
whether we were analyzing it or not.
Yeah, I love that. One, that it shifted, that it brought out something in human relationships, right? Because when you're all kin to something that cosmic, you know, the separation between us, like the guy who sat next to me, I frankly didn't want to know his story. You know, it was a fine story, but it wasn't one I was interested in hearing about. And he loved music, but it was all classical music. So he's telling me all about the classic music that he loves, and I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about, right? So, but that said, we all dropped all of the baggage that we normally apply to that sort of moment, and we were just together in a deeper way. He was deeply grateful for the conversation, and so was I in the end. We all got up and went about our merry ways, right? So,
In observation,
yeah.
just out of your personality and what you've been doing, you're a magnet for
Oh.
people dumping their story on you.
They do. I am a story dump. I should have a sign in the back of my head, "Dump your story here." Because I swear to God, maybe that's what's going on here. That's a really good insight. I got to think about that one. Thank you for that. How about we do a video clip? Is that good? I want to shift to hear Lauren a little bit. So this is a segment that I had asked her about theologians who think about this idea of God as being something that we actually can't ever wrap our heads around. So Karl Barth is a great, I think he's a German theologian, and he said that God, whatever your sense of God is totally other. So when you think you know that, what God is, you're probably wrong, because God is beyond anything that we can ever imagine. So Karl Barth was big into that. God is totally other. And then Marcus Borg tried to come up, he's a New Testament scholar. He was struggling with Barth's notion of God being totally other, but he came up with that word that I think is way richer. And he said, think of God as the more. Not as an entity, but the more. So is there more to this, solar eclipse than meets the eye? Then you're asking the God question. What more is here for us to experience or be touched by? For Borg, he said that's how you should think of God. So I posed the question to Lauren. I think we're going to pick up me inebriated and finishing up that question. I posed this question to Lauren about how does she frame this notion herself, and then this is her response. I think I got it queued up pretty well here. Now let's see how it goes.
One of the books that's on the table is Braiding Sweetgrass. Have a lot of us read this book? Okay, so Robin Wall Kimmerer, Native American botanist, really fantastic writer. I call that book my Bible. And one of her quotes in the book reminds me of an earth-centered version of Jesus Loves Me, and I'm going to share that quote. She says, "Knowing that you love the earth changes you, activates you to defend and protect and celebrate. But when you feel that earth loves you in return, that feeling transforms the relationship from a one-way street into a sacred bond." So I get to be moved by the more, don't I? I get to say, oh my gosh, God, the holy other, is bigger than I thought. And look at what the more is doing in my life now. So it comes back again to this relationship that, yes, I show Earth that I love Earth by tending my garden. But when my garden teaches me something, and I feel held and loved and awestruck by what my garden is teaching me,
Yeah, that's the magic. Well, and that book is filled with stories. Those of you who read it, then do exactly. Let me pause it. So two things. One, if you haven't read Braiding, are you still awake? I know, A, it's early in the morning, and we just turned on Lauren, your hypnotist. Get back with this candy. Two things. If you haven't read Braiding Sweetgrass, how many people, anybody like a Braiding Sweetgrass fan? A few of us? Yeah. It really is, in my mind, the magic that Lauren's talking about, but not in religious, it's not in a religious construct. Right? It makes no illusion that it's trying to do anything religiously, but only to invigorate this kind of intimate relationship with the more. And she does it through the sciences and through her own story, her own legacy as a Native American person, I think it's Native American person. Very powerful. That she would call it her Bible is an indicator that it's a bunch of short stories, so it doesn't ever get too boring. That you dive into the world of sweetgrass. What is sweetgrass teaching me? You dive into the world of the pecan. What's going on with the pecans when they all, have this mass harvest? These stories become the teachers of both wisdom and the kinship. What is the kinship? And how does Earth really love us? And so that draws you into a different kind of dynamic. It's a great book. If you haven't read it, I'd buy you all a copy, but I can't afford it. Yeah, Carla, your hand up. And then any thoughts on any comments on this segment?
From my perspective, we're all the source of what we're getting. And so I don't get the trees, the grass, the flowers that I adore are my teacher.
Yeah.
They just are. I don't get when I say you're my teacher, that for me implies some sort of active, I want you to learn, versus they're just being in a state. And my own brain is the one that's creating what it is that I'm getting out of it.
Yeah.
Just a little different spin.
No,
not to negate what you're saying.
No. I totally agree with you. I think you should read that book, because I have the same problem. I always think that everything that we think of, the way we construct meaning, is a construct that we generate.
Yeah.
And I think, and especially from the science point of view, I think what they're saying is just be open to the possibility that there is more going on here than meets the brain. And I don't know that I'm fully convinced either, Carla, because I think most of life is a social construct or a thought construct. You all sitting here I don't even know if you're really here or not. I could be just me doing this in my head. It's awesome. But you know what I mean? It's just, how do you get in touch with that? I do think that book is a helpful primer to that journey. Tina?
Well, more isn't just about nature. Any reality that you are in, there's more.
Yeah.
So even like my individual experience that I'm having, there's more.
Mm-hmm.
We're sitting here in this room hearing you and getting a message, but there's more to get. Like, we're going to each get something more out of your message, out of this video. Everything's the more.
Yeah.
It's not just nature. Life is
Yeah,
more
that's
than
a good-
our perception of our reality.
Yeah. And she did make some reference to, which I don't, again, it was one that I was like, really? She talked about a physicist who talks about how we're co-participants in the cosmic more. So it's not like we're consumers of it, like teach me, oh great more, like Wizard of Oz kind of vibe. Our relationship co-participates in the shaping of all of that. So we're not benign participants in a wisdom stream that we're trying to tap into, but we're co-creating that in relationship with it. I do think that I'm glad you brought that up. I do think that was a model that just reminds us how important our place is in the kingdom as well. Yeah.
There's not a separation. It's not this man or person and nature.
Yeah.
We're in it. We're not outside it, whether we see that or we don't see that.
Yeah.
And I see, for me, nature may be a teacher, but it's also an amazing therapist. If I'm struggling and I get out, take a wonderful hike, or just pull weeds, I can just feel whatever it is going away.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that. Nature as therapist is a good one. For those of you, I suffer from depression. That's one of the things I wrestle with. And if I start getting into a funk, if I can just take one step out into nature, it's an act of willpower to do it because you start spiraling down, right? But if you can just take one step into a walk or a run or a ride, or you get out of your context, you're right. It invites you into different space, right? Yeah, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm back. So yeah, that's a great, lovely insight. Who else? Somebody else is sparking around?
Sure. Yeah.
I want to make sure we hear from everybody too. So if anybody, I don't want to. Oh, should we wrap up? All right. So you've heard enough at home. Feel free to contribute your thoughts and comments, obviously in the chat section of whether you're on YouTube or Facebook today, and so that we can get some of the wisdom that you bring to this conversation. So thanks for being here. We'll see you next week. Next week we're going to try an experience driven by a book called Rewilding the Soul. And it's a book that tries to invite you into these relationships with nature in a way that kind of ignites that kinship experience. And so we're going to try one next week. So next week will be more of an experiential piece if you come. All right. See y'all. Thanks, Bruce, for